Okay, should you learn the notes on the guitar neck? Let's have a look today at what that even means. Let's look at the arguments in the no camp, the arguments in the yes camp. Disclaimer, I'm firmly in the yes camp. And then, let's look at how, some ideas on how you might start to do that. All right, what does it mean? So firstly, do you think in terms of numbers or do you think in terms of notes, letters? Okay, if I play this note here, do you think 3? Third fret on the low E string, or do you think G, which is the actual note that I played? If you think of 3, then maybe you don't know the notes of the neck or you don't know them too well. So you're more in maybe the tablature vein of thinking, look, that's great, that's fine. Everyone sort of goes through that, I think, or most people. But that's really what it means. Do you think of numbers or do you think in terms of letters or notes? All right, consider in Western music, you only got 12 notes to consider, okay? And then we repeat them up an octave or down an octave, which means higher in pitch or lower in pitch. And out of those 12, you've only got 7 different letters. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's 7. What are the other 5? The 5 are either sharps or flats. A sharp is something slightly higher in pitch. A flat is something slightly lower in pitch. Now, most notes, but not all of them, most notes have sharps and flats, and that's it. If you learn those simple concepts, then you can start to memorize the notes on the neck. So one of the questions is, should I learn this even if I don't know any theory between scales or how chords are constructed or how chords are combined together, that sort of theoretical approach, harmony and things like that. Should you learn it even if you don't know any theory? Well, let's have a look at the no arguments. Okay, first one you might hear is it takes time. Yes. Second one, it's a lot to memorize. Well, that's subjective. I would say no, it's not a lot to memorize. If you've gone through school, if you've gone through university, if you've got a job, you've no doubt memorized things that are significantly more complex than learning this. So is it hard? And does it take a lot of time? I think no. I suppose it's subjective, but no. Okay, what about the argument that theory blocks creativity? Now, I know we're only talking notes on the neck, not really theory, but theory blocks creativity. That's another one sometimes that you hear. Okay, I suppose the answer is it might do, but do you really think it will? No. Okay, next one. Even if people aren't sort of thinking this is, I suppose, just the way they naturally start to play is, well, can't I just get by with patterns? The guitar is such a pattern-based instrument. You learn something here, you can just move your hand up to somewhere else and you can play it in a different key. So patterns are great, and I thoroughly recommend patterns in combination with learning the notes. And some people who don't know the notes maybe, have had amazing careers and delivered unbelievable music where they really don't know any theory and they might not really know the notes on the neck either. So is it possible? Look, sure it is. Okay, and I can't really think of anything else in the no camp. I don't think any of those arguments are that strong, but I don't know. If there are any others that you can think of, leave a comment. All right, let's tackle a bit of the why you should do it by rebutting, I suppose, some of the no answers. So the first one, it's going to take time and there's a lot to memorize. Well, remember, there's only 7 different letters, A through G, and then sharps and flats between most of those. And that's it. Then you get into what's known as an octave. So you can play an E here. Remember I said there are 12 letters, so you go up to the 12th fret. Same note. Can you hear that? It's the same note. They're both E's. One's an octave higher, one's an octave lower. So it just repeats itself, higher or lower. So the concept of notes, again in Western music, 7 different letters, 12 different tones, and then they repeat. Some are sharp, some are flat. So that's it. Learn that, memorize that, which you can memorize pretty quickly. Then you just need to start to know, well, where are they on the fretboard? So one of the other arguments that I've heard a lot, again, I know we're not really talking about theory here, but theory blocks creativity. I haven't heard it recently, but I used to hear it quite a lot back in the day. And this one to me is just sort of funny. Music is a language. And as such, when you're speaking, in terms of music, when you're speaking to other people, you can do it without learning it, but it just makes things so much easier, so much clearer, so much faster when you speak the same language. So, if you're at a rehearsal or you need to change key or you're writing something, whatever it is, learning the notes just makes your life so much easier. So it doesn't, to me, block theory. It opens up options for you. Can I get by with just patterns? Well, so this to me is one where I would certainly argue with people against it, but you can actually do a surprising amount with patterns. Say, for example, if you were a blues player, of course, not to put down blues players at all. They are, the tone and the touch they have is absolutely unbelievable. But if I was thinking off the top of my head of a style of music where you could probably get away with patterns, it might be something like the blues. That said, if, understanding the notes is the key to understanding why things work and why things don't. Again, air quotes, because it's subjective. And it just starts you being able to control, to play what you hear in your head or what sort of a emotion you're trying to invoke. So patterns are brilliant. Use patterns. But for me, certainly not an argument against learning the notes. Another one on patterns. Let's say you know a chord and you're playing it, let's say, for example, this chord for the sake of the argument. Really nice chord. Now, if you don't know what that chord is, because you might not recognize that chord shape, it's really nice, right? Now, if you don't know what this note is, how do you communicate that with the bass player, with the piano player? Or a singer says, I really like that, let's write a song, but hey, can you change key? Sure, you could move it around, but what happens if you needed to move it to the A string? The same voicing, the same arrangement of fingers isn't going to work. So you're really stuck. If you don't know the notes, it's extremely limiting. So another thing is, by learning the notes on the fretboard, that gives you the foundation to be able to learn actual music theory. So the way chords are constructed and the way chord relationships work. When I'm learning songs for the channel, my knowledge of music theory makes things incredibly easier, and it really slashes the amount of time it takes to learn a song just because I understand what they're probably doing, and when they do something outside a key, it's more obvious to my ear, again, just because I have an understanding of the way it works. So again, thoroughly recommend learning the notes on the fingerboard. Okay, following on from that, once you learn some basic theory, you understand the rules, again, theory, so air quotes there are no rules, but you understand the way, the major scale works and all the chords. Once you know those rules, you can break them, and you can break them knowingly. You're not throwing chords together that you have no idea. It's just dumb luck. Now that works too. But if you have an understanding of this, you know the rules, you can break them, and you can go for a particular sound because you know what's going to work and what's not going to work. Okay, so if you've decided to start to learn the notes on the fretboard, good decision. How do you start? What's the first thing you should do? Well, first remember that basic structure that I said. 7 letters, A through G. There are some sharps and some flats between them. So the general rule is between B and C, they are right next to each other. No sharps, no flats, sort of. And the same holds true between E and F. You don't have E sharp, you don't have F flat, sort of. Don't worry about the sort of, that's more an advanced thing. We start to get into really wacky keys like C sharp. So where I would start on the guitar is the bottom E string, nice and simple. Now remember, the bottom E string and the high E string are exactly the same. So if you have a note here, for example, G, then you know this is a G. It's the same note. Okay, so any note that you know on the bottom E, you also know on the high E. So you start to learn little tricks like that, little hints and tips to get you where you need to be. Okay, I would use the fret markers, at least the first 3. They generally coincide with a natural note. Natural note being not a sharp, not a flat. So if this one is an E, there's no fret marker on the first fret, but we've got an F. Remember, E and F are right together. And then the next note is a natural, it's G. Next note is a natural, it's A. Next note is a natural, it's a B. Okay, so you can start to remember that by using the fret markers. Okay, the next thing I would start to do is, move to the A. So A, C, D, E. Okay, again, natural notes on those dots. One of the other tricks you can do, and I'll leave it there for today, is think of a power chord. You all know a power chord. It's the bottom of a bar chord, okay? That 2 frets up, 2 strings down, or up, whichever way you want to look at it, is what's called an octave. It's the same note. So G, G. Can you hear that they're the same note? Okay, so if I know that this note here is a B, then I know 2, 2, this note here is a B. So you can start to use octaves as patterns to start to memorize the notes on the fingerboard. Start slow, sure, it's going to take some time, but it's really not that difficult. Now, the octave approach you can also do on the A string. So if this is a C, because you all know a C chord, right? If that's a C, then I know that note there is a C. Now, it's a little different when you get to the D string. Instead of it being 2 frets up, 2 strings down, it's 3 frets up, okay, for those 2 sets of strings. So again, there are rules like that, there are patterns like that you just sort of start to memorize. But learn the notes. It's the first step on opening up the doors to your musical journey. For me, it opens and it's liberating rather than being restrictive. It's really not that hard. It's just one of those things that there's a lot of little things and you memorize it as you go. Don't try and do it in a day or a weekend, but every day do a few minutes and start to memorize it. Within a week or 2 or 3, I guarantee you will know a lot more than you do now. Whenever you're playing a chord, think, what is that chord? So if you're playing A minor, it's because the bottom string there is your A. That's your root note. If you're playing a G, then you must know that's G. Now, relative to that G, where's A on that string? It's on the fret marker, then B, etc. Start slow, work up to it, then you can get into more theoretical concepts. And as I said, that's really going to open up music for you. All right, good luck. See you next time.